Hello everyone, Hobbyist here, back at it again with another manga review, and I finally returned to Berserk to give you guys this video. So, at the end of the Conviction arc, we know that Griffith essentially had a second eclipse inside the birthing ceremony, and that eventually it turns out that he transcended his femto form. How much so? Well, inside the Millennium Falcon arc, it really dives into that. But the first thing that I want to kind of go over is the fact that we get to see Griffith for the first time encountering Guts, probably since Black Swordsman. The chapter Sword on the Hill, honestly, I was a bit breathtaking. I was a bit confused and conflicted because when Griffith meets Guts again, Griffith is still his usual old self. And it's kind of sad to see because, well, you and I know that Griffith isn't who we thought he was. And throughout the Millennium Falcon of the Empire arc, uh, we get to sort of see that. Now, first thing that I definitely for sure need to address when it comes to this arc is just how great and how evolved Kentaro Miura's art has progressed. Not to say that anything from previous arcs was bad, far from it, but we get to really see him shine. And this arc really pulls in the fantasy elements that we kind of forget that this is a dark fantasy story. This is the arc where magic is a thing. This is the arc where we learn about elves. Shirkei is introduced. And then, of course, there's one of the most hype moments in the entire arc when Guts adorns the Berserker armor for the first time. And it gives this real sense of, like, realizing how Guts has subtly changed. When we meet Roderick inside of Millennium Falcon of the Empire, he lightly taps him on his chest, but we know that the Guts of old would have never allowed this. He would have been like, don't touch me, don't you fucking touch me. He would have pushed away. But as Isidro, Farnese, Casca, Puck, and Shirkei join the Black Swordsman and form the Black Swordsman party, we really get to see Guts kind of be more of his old self. We get to see him smile again. We get to see him make jokes and kind of prod at people a little bit. He's not as rough around the edges as he used to be. I mean, to be honest, I'm skeptical this whole time, and I'm still skeptical as far as what we're going to do in regards to if anything happens to this group. And you kind of see that at first with Guts, is that, like, these people are trying to get close to him. Serpico is also trying to get close to him. But similarly with how the Band of the Hawk was, eventually Guts lets down his walls and trusts Farnese with watching over Casca. This arc proved to me that Farnese, hands down, is one of the best written characters in Berserk. Because of just how much she changes from who she was at the Conviction arc. At the beginning of the Conviction arc, she was so against the idea of demons and monsters and the fact that God couldn't protect her, that the Holy See wasn't going to watch over her. But as we got closer and closer to the birthing ceremony, as Farnese realizes that this world is darker than she let herself believe, she cuts her own hair and dedicates herself towards learning magic. And Farnese is far from useless, but for the first time she's broken to the point where she feels useless. Yet she's the only one who now at this point is entrusted to watch over Casca, is entrusted with the one person that Guts cares about, probably more than anybody else inside of his group. I think that that's absolutely beautiful. Like, there's no other comparison in that regard. When we get a bit further and we go with the Kushan Empire, who's trying to fight back against Griffith and prevent Griffith from taking over, Ganishka was a very interesting character because for the first time, I guess in a little bit, I don't know if it's the first time ever, but we found someone who opposed Griffith but wasn't on Guts' side either. Ganishka was more into it for himself and gaining his apostle powers and things like that. So he used the God Hand much like Griffith did, but he wasn't in alliance with Griffith. It was a very interesting dynamic. We get a lot more flesh out of the Kushan Empire than ever before as far as their history, and how Ganishka was basically like an outcast and treated like garbage from his parents. But when we get towards the birth of Falconia, and Falconia just emerging as this utopia for demons and monsters alike to sort of come together, and that Ganishka was the catalyst for it all, I really was like blown away and like really reminded that Berserk is a fantasy manga. It's a dark fantasy, but it's fantasy. It like pulls everything out. Did I also mention that Guts rides on Zod's back in combat in one of the most badass shot of panels that I've ever seen? Like, this arc is balls to the walls when it hits its climax. And it does everything right towards slowly progressing Guts to where we slowly start seeing him heal. It's not so much as physical obstacles that he overcomes. I mean, he still does, but seeing these subtle changes within Guts' character and him starting to smile more, letting Roderick touch on him as far as like giving a friendly tap on the chest or something like that, or the scary monsters inside the ballroom, or the fact that now Guts, when Farnese has problems with not wanting to stay with the group, that he actually wants to go out of his way to save her. Guts of old would never do that. Guts of old would be trying to convince himself that, well, they're too weak to be beside you anyway, so you should just let them perish, let them die. It's so beautifully done that I can't praise this arc enough. This arc probably, overall, is very, very close contention with Golden Age, if you ask me. The only side-by-side comparison that I have with Millennium Falcon and Golden Age is simply the fact that Golden Age characterized, built up, and destroyed Guts' character, whereas Millennium Falcon kind of just helped me realize slowly the healing process that Guts is going through, and how Griffith, through his dream and his goals and his strife, he's kind of viewed in a protagonist light, if you're being quite honest. He's the one with the goal, he's the one doing all the steps, he's the one pushing the plot forward with the building of Falconia. But as all these people, as you watch them be in awe of Griffith and his divine charisma that just takes a hold over him, for the first time since the natural charisma that he had during Golden Age, I've felt this lull and sense of brainwashing that's happened because of Griffith. And even though I've already repulsed Griffith because of what he did in the Eclipse, I just kind of realized that, oh, what have you done? You have really become more of a monster than people will realize. You've got them so blind to you. In fact, the priest of the Holy See is blind to you. Former enemies become allies under Griffith. Heck, the prostitutes in the Conviction arc go to Falconia. The only person who was ever spared of this whole situation, and I'll get into when we transition into Fantasia, is Rickard. But honestly, I really don't have anything much more to say. This arc is absolutely fantastic. Overall, from start to finish, I'd say it's better than Conviction. But Let me know down in the comments below. Do you guys think that the Millennium Falcon arc was really good, like I did? Do you think it had some weak point areas or anything like that? Let me know. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.